Hi everyone and welcome back to LL Sports TV. Hope you're all doing well. Now, I'm filming this video from my hotel room in Gran Canaria, so apologies in advance if the lighting is a little off or not as good as usual. But here goes. This weekend, Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn renewed their rivalry following their first fight, which took place back in April. A fight which I've got to say was a barnstormer, a fight that Chris Eubank Jr. won on a unanimous points decision. Now, they say that rematches normally go the way of the first fight, and I'm inclined to believe that that will be the case this time. And in this video, I'm going to set out the reasons why. Now, I've got to say also that the rematch doesn't appear, certainly from what I can see anyway, to have garnered quite the same level of interest and intrigue and public imagination that the first fight did. But come fight night, I'm pretty sure that everybody will be hyped up, and then the anticipation will play out and it'll be a great fight. But anyway, so how does this fight play out then? So, like I said, I've come up with 6 reasons, something like that, why I think Chris Eubank Jr. repeats his previous win over Conor Benn. Let's start with number 1, and that is a fairly obvious one actually: size and physical advantage at middleweight. Right, so both men will be fighting at the contracted 160-pound weight division limit, which is middleweight. There will be a 10-pound rehydration clause in the contract. But Chris Eubank Jr. is the natural middleweight. He's naturally the bigger guy. In fact, he's fought as high as super middleweight previously. Chris Eubank Jr., he stands quite tall. He's just under 6 foot. He's got 72.5-inch reach, which is significantly larger than Conor Benn's. Conor Benn is 5'8", and he has a 68-inch reach. So straight away, that's quite a natural size disparity in favor of Chris Eubank Jr. He was able to use that size disparity in the first fight to good effect, and I see no reason why he won't do second time around. And that natural size disparity allows Chris Eubank Jr. to look to maintain his distance, and also him being the bigger man, he will be thinking anyway, will absorb Conor Benn's power more effectively, especially once he's made the weight and he's able to rehydrate. So yeah, I think size advantage and physical advantage is significant in this fight. I mean, Conor Benn is effectively stepping up from welterweight. He was previously a welterweight. I'm not sure if he carries enough power at 160 pounds to put any serious dents in Chris Eubank Jr., who, like I said, is a big guy for the weight and has fought as high as 168 pounds. You've also got to remember as well that Chris Eubank Jr. is known for his durability and his toughness. My second reason: superior boxing skill and experience. Now, I think it's fair to say, and I think we saw evidence of it in the first fight, that Chris Eubank Jr. is not only the naturally bigger man, but he's also more experienced. He's more technically skilled. He's been boxing a lot longer than Conor Benn. He had a decent amateur career. He's been a pro a lot longer than Conor Benn. He's obviously a lot older than Conor Benn. And I think that superior boxing skill will make an effect on Conor Benn. I mean, Eubank has been in the ring with guys at a very high level. I mean, you're talking about people like Billy Joe Saunders, George Groves, Liam Smith twice. He's been in with guys of a much higher caliber than Conor Benn has been in with, and he's been in with those guys for a lot longer period of time. So to me, that gives him a decided advantage in Conor Benn, whose best win, we have to say, would be against Chris Algieri some years ago now. So yeah, I think Chris Eubank Jr. clearly has the edge in this department, and we saw that in the first fight. He sort of withstood Conor Benn's early aggression and kind of took over the fight in the middle to late rounds, using his jab to dictate the distance. He landed the cleaner, more accurate shots. He connected with the more punches overall. I think it was something like 316 or 367, I think, to Conor Benn's 215. So I think you can see from that he does have the edge in that department. And I think in managing a 12-round contest, especially against a less experienced boxer like Conor Benn, could prove pivotal. Reason number 3, what I call the boxing ill-discipline of Conor Benn. Now, Conor Benn, after the first fight, he admitted that he got too greedy in the first fight. He said he focused too much on trying to hurt Eubank, to trying to knock him out. He did hurt him. I've got to be fair to Conor Ben. There were occasions when he did hurt Chris Eubank Jr., which is props to Conor Ben for being able to do that because, as I said before, Chris Eubank Jr. is known for his durability and his toughness. So yeah, Conor Ben, he's tough himself. He's aggressive. He's a come forward fighter. He can punch, but I'm not sure if he has enough power to seriously hurt Chris Eubank Jr. And I think that Conor Ben, he can get a bit carried away with his aggression. He can be a bit wild. And I think if he commits too heavily, too early, looking for a stoppage, it will kind of play directly into Chris Eubank's hands in terms of Chris Eubank Jr.'s greater counter-punching skills and the stamina that he's built up over the years. And obviously, he's been able to organise and put into effect a game plan to last the full 12 rounds. So I do think that Conor Ben's indiscipline, his wildness at times might work against him in this fight, as it did in the first fight. Reason number 4, momentum and confidence. Now, obviously, Chris Eubank Jr., he won the first fight. And I believe at this point that has given him the mental edge over Conor Ben. I think that's only fair to say that. I think he has the measure of Conor Ben in this department. Chris Eubank Jr., as we've seen, he likes to play the mind games. And I think you can kind of see where he's got under Conor Ben's skin quite a bit in the lead up to the first fight. And even in this second fight, in the rematch, even though Conor Ben's tried to keep things under control, he's tried to be more measured, you can still see that if you look at the two fighters when they're in close proximity to each other, you can see that, well, certainly I think I can see that Chris Eubank Jr. has that little edge over him. Could well be because he won the first fight, but he does appear to have that little edge over Conor Ben, which again could prove pivotal in the fight. Reason number 5. Now this is one that I think could be significant, and this is the new trainer. So for this fight, Chris Eubank Jr. is teaming up with top trainer Brian McIntyre, aka Bomac. Now, Bomac, you may all know, is the trainer of Terence Crawford, who is, by many people's estimations, the pound-for-pound #1 fighter in the world at the moment. Bomac is widely recognised by everybody in the industry as one of the best trainers in the world. He's not just trained Terence Crawford, he's also trained people like Shakur Stevenson and people like that. And Eubank and Bomac have linked up once previously before. You may remember that Bomac was in the corner when he helped Chris Eubank Jr. secure a revenge win over Liam Smith a few years back. And they executed a very good game plan in that fight. So having a trainer like Bomac in your corner, I think gives Chris Eubank Jr. a big advantage in this fight. And that's no disrespect to Tony Sims, who is Conor Ben's trainer and whom I rate very highly. But I do think that Bomac is one of the best trainers in the world. Like I said, they have formed together. The excellent revenge win over Liam Smith, which was one of Chris Eubank's best ever performances in my view. So I think having a new disciplined approach under an elite coach like Bomac suggests that Eubank Jr. will be even more focused for this fight. They will draw up what I call professional and tactical game plan, which I expect Chris Eubank Jr. to execute on the night. So I think him bringing in Bomac, like I said, could be significant, and I think that's a very good move on Chris Eubank Jr.'s part. Right, and my final reason will be reason number 6. That is what I call Conor Ben's lack of a definitive plan B. So what I mean by that is, whilst Conor Ben is clearly the younger, some would say hungrier fighter, his best chance in this fight will be for what I call a high volume, aggressive onslaught type of fight, where we will try and force Eubank Jr. into mistakes and try and catch him and maybe try and get an early stoppage. But I believe that if this doesn't work for Conor Ben, which I suspect it won't, then I don't think, and this is no disrespect to him, I'm just going by what I've seen previously, I'm not so sure that Conor Ben has the technical depth and the experience, as well as the endurance required to alternate to a different game plan and to use a plan in which to outbox Chris Eubank Jr. over 12 hard rounds. Now, we've seen Chris Eubank Jr. do this already. I'm not sure if Conor Ben's got that in his armory. I could be wrong, But again, I'm just going by what I've seen. Now, Chris Eubank Jr., he's already survived Conor Benn's best shots. I think he would have figured out his rhythm, and I think he will come up with a game plan to outbox Conor Benn over the 12 rounds. So yeah, that's my reasons. And just to finish by summarising and saying, listen, in the first fight, Chris Eubank Jr.'s won that fight. He won it clearly. Don't get me wrong, it was a very competitive fight. It's a very hard fight. Conor Benn did very well. But in the final analysis, I do think that Chris Eubank Jr.'s size, his experience, his superior boxing skills were enough to neutralise Benn's early aggression and secure what I would say is a decisive points win in the first fight. And I think come fight night this weekend, I think Eubank Jr. will repeat those same patterns. And I think he goes on to win another unanimous points decision, or maybe even a late stoppage. But I do think that in the final analysis, Chris Eubank Jr.'s hand will be raised again. I'm expecting it to be a very good fight. There will be ebb and flow. I wouldn't be surprised if Conor Benn is able to hurt Eubank at times. He did so in the first fight. There's no reason to suggest why he can't do that in the second fight. But I just think that when all things are tallied up, I do think that Chris Eubank Jr. has a lot more going for him than Conor Benn does in this particular fight. But that's all from me. Let me know what you guys think. Please put it in the comments. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, please like, share and subscribe. Please spread the word about LL Sports TV. Catch you on the next one. I'm out.